reflect on your life? And do you need to carve out more space for reflection so that you consider what you've achieved, what more you may be capable of, and what those around you may be capable of? Can you take a second look? I kept a diary since 1972. That was the year Alice Cooper made it to #1 in the charts with School's Out. I was 14 years old, about to start studying for my O-levels. Until today, now I'm in my 60s. Not quite the response I was hoping for, but I'll go on. I've stepped away from full-time work and I'm still writing my diary every day. So each day for 47 years, I have recorded what I did, what happened, and how I felt about it, reflecting on and processing my experiences. It's something I've always found satisfying and quite therapeutic, actually. It's also really interesting to look back, to reread diary entries from years gone by. One of the things I've realized is that memory is actually quite unreliable. Often, what I think I remember isn't quite what happened when I read what I recorded on the day. And it does make me think about the passage of time and my own personal growth. My husband has been in my life for 45 of those 47 years, so I'm actually recording our shared history. And sometimes when I reread a diary entry to him, it brings about interesting discussions and reflections and reminiscences, and it can make us laugh. One day in March 1979, I wrote, "Emptied my loose change pot today. There was £3 in it. So I bought a pair of earrings and a teak chopping board." A few years ago, I decided to start to reread this day in history from 20 years before, 30 years before, and 40 years before, after I'd written my diary entry each day. So 20 years ago, in 1999, I was a deputy head. I'd started applying for headships, and actually in June 1999, I'd been successful in the head teacher appointment process. 30 years ago, 1989, I was second in English in my second school, living in the Northwest, newly married, and after 2 years of applications and 8 interviews, I'd finally secured my head of English post, and I was absolutely thrilled. And then 40 years ago, it was 1979, I was in my last year at Manchester University, I'd just completed my finals, and I was about to start my PGCE at Edgehill College in Ormskirk. I had a great career in teaching. I had 7 different jobs across 6 schools in 30 years. But rereading my diary entries makes me realize that some of those schools and some of the leaders within them were far better than others at recognizing my potential, encouraging me, offering me opportunities to challenge myself, to take on new responsibilities, and to grow as a teacher and a leader. Other schools and other leaders seemed determined to keep me in a box, to restrict and even stifle me. I remember someone saying, "That isn't even your job. Why are you talking about that?" And I recognize now, far better than I did at the time, how those schools and those leaders failed to get the best from me. I think that across our careers, we learn a huge amount from positive role models, from excellent, committed teachers and skillful, empowering leaders. They show us what's possible, what we might be capable of, with support and challenge, encouragement and trust. But we also learn a huge amount from negative role models, from teachers and leaders whose practice we observe, and we find ourselves thinking, "I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have said that. I wouldn't have treated him or her that way." Because in the process, we are refining our vision of the teacher and the leader we could one day be. So rereading my diary entries over the decades has encouraged me to look again, to revisit and reflect on how I developed as a teacher, a leader, and also as a person, and how the lessons of my early career and how I was treated then informed and strengthened my own leadership practice later on as a head of department, a head of sixth form, a deputy head, and then a head for 10 joyful and fulfilling years. I also realised that what I learnt from working alongside colleagues who saw and nurtured my potential and working alongside other people who really didn't has helped me in my current professional life. So I'm talking about leadership, I'm writing about leadership, I'm supporting aspiring and serving leaders at all levels. And I really appreciate that throughout that time I had a partner, family and friends who always said, "Of course you can," rather than, "Are you sure you can?" So I have 2 messages that I want to share with you today. And the first is this. Look again at what you may be capable of. Give yourself credit from everything you've achieved and all you've learnt in the past, personally and professionally, and think about what more you could accomplish in the future. What skills do you have and how can you make the most of them? What strengths are you developing and how can you use those strengths to make the most positive contribution and to live your life well? I'm a huge fan of appreciative inquiry. It's a credit rather than a deficit model of improvement, which says, instead of fixating on what's broken and how we can repair it, we'd actually get further if we focused on what's going well and how we can do more of it. Find the bright spots. So stop and think for a minute. What are the bright spots in your lives? What do you feel good about? What do you feel proud of? Don't ever undervalue that. Do that more. And this is my second message. We are all leaders, whether you're leading learning in classrooms, whether you're leading beyond the classroom, or whether you're leading colleagues. Cory Booker, who's an American senator, said, "Leadership is not a position or a title, it is action and example." And I recently read Aisha Small's book, The Unexpected Leader, in which she says, sometimes people think leadership is all about titles, head of this, director of that. In those roles, you are certainly paid to have influence, but true influence comes from whose behaviour you can affect, not what a plaque on an office door says. So think about whose behaviour you affect at home, at work, in all spheres of your life, and how you can have the most positive effect. Look again at what others may be capable of, children and adults. Could you have even greater faith in their capacity to become the best possible versions of themselves, as I hope over the years some people have had faith in you? So, what can we conclude from all this? Our relationships evolve over time, our personal relationships and our professional relationships, because we all change and grow over time. Certainly rereading my diary entries has reinforced that from me. I recognise the girl and the young woman whose words I'm reading, but she's not exactly the same person I am today. So look afresh at yourself, look afresh at others and your relationship with them. Might you be failing to give yourself and others credit for what could be done in the future because you can't let go of what happened in the past? Take a second look. And you and those you lead could be happier, more effective and confident, and the world of education will certainly be the better for it. Thank you for listening.